This is Marjolein Robertson for the Shetland Times podcast, and this one is coming from location in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Fringe. Well, I'm joined with Joe Christie.
Hello.
Hi, Joe.
How are you doing, Marjolein?
I'm good. Better for seeing you. Not seen you in a year.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're friends, so but we'll keep things...
Disclaimer.
Yeah, but we'll make sure that we give context to everything.
To the pitter-patter that's about to ensue, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason I'd like to talk to you today while I'm at Edinburgh is because you're very much involved in the Fringe.
I am. I'm doing a show this year for the first week, 4th to the 12th. It's called Company. It's a musical by Stephen Sondheim from back in the 70s. It's one of his better-known musicals. It's about this guy from New York called Bobby. He's basically having a bit of a midlife crisis and trying to work out whether to settle down or not. So he goes to visit all of his married friends to kind of see what their relationship is like and whether he can see himself fitting into the kind of like paradigms of the various relationships that they have. But underneath it all, it's kind of a character study about this guy, and it's kind of a look at loneliness and not being able to fit into this world that you seemingly are a part of. So there's a lot of layers to it. Like a lot of it's very silly, but there's a really quite dark existential thing going on beneath it all.
Yeah, and you play...
I play a character called Harry, who is a recovering alcoholic. He actually is one of the characters who has one of the more functional marriages. It's a curious one because on the surface it seems like him and his wife Sarah are very competitive and very bickery and always take quite low blows and at each other and jibe at each other, but they've worked out that is the way to keep the spark alive in their marriage, and that's the way to keep it exciting after all this time.
Be nasty.
Yes, yeah. some of it is very there's low blows about kind of what he did at the height of his alcoholism, because Bobby's just visiting for this dinner party, and there's swipes about her being on her diet, swipes about him drinking at other parties and making a fool of himself. But it's all done in quite good jest between the pair of them, and I think they have probably the warmest relationship out of all of the couples in the show. So maybe counterintuitively.
And it's a musical.
Yeah. It's a musical. It's famous for a couple of songs. It's famous for being alive, which has become kind of a musical theatre staple, kind of the big showstopper at the end. And it's also known for The Ladies Who Lunch, which it's Elaine Stritch and Patti LuPone have done it a lot. They're the kind of famous people for doing it, but basically it's this big takedown of kind of upper middle class kind of yuppie-ish women in New York who don't really care about things but want to project this image of high society. So it's a takedown of the women who go to yoga classes and take classes in optical art at the university and take brunch.
Yeah, we used to have not a secret club. We used to have a club like that at uni called the Ladies Who Lunch. But the reason
it's about you, Marjolein.
It was nothing fancy. It was literally after the social night, then for ski club, then
you would gossip, then you'd have brunch and gossip about what happened the next day.
We'd never make breakfast because we'd all wake up so late, so I think our lecture was at 3, so we can just get some food in before the lecture. That would be great.
Well, I think the debrief is one of arguably the most important part of the night out experience.
Find out what happened to you.
Unpack everything, yeah.
So how did you get involved in the company? Who's doing the show?
So it's the Edinburgh University Savoy Opera Group who are doing the show. And they do a show at Fringe every year and have done so for years and years and years. I was actually in the production they did last year. And
I saw it and it was amazing.
Thank you, Marjolein. Thank you.
Big fan.
Did not ask her to say that. We did Spring Awakening last year, which is about the really sexually repressed German teenagers in the 19th century. So kind of popular, mass appeal. No, it's a very popular musical amongst young people, and actually when I was growing up, the music, because it's very angsty, and it's a musical that kind of understands all the complex kind of emotions that you have during puberty and growing up, and the things about the world that you don't understand, and the things that are kept for you. So it's kind of about that. So that was really fun to do. But yeah, I did that show last year, and it's the same group this year. But I just auditioned for it in the conventional way. I was actually on my year abroad in Canada and Montreal last year, so I had to do the whole audition process with through video link, which was bizarre. Yeah, because I've never done anything like that before. It was I had to record my monologue and record my song, and then there was a callback where I had to read certain sides for certain parts and stuff. But it was very strange because I didn't have anybody to play stuff off against, and you didn't have the kind of buzz of the audition and like the panel watching you. There was no one to perform to except like a tiny camera that I was like balancing on the back of a piano with 5 books, you know.
I done that.
Yeah.
For Star Wars.
Yeah, did you? Yeah. Nah, never does.
But no, what for you? That's brilliant.
Yeah. So that was good. It was I was actually staying with somebody else in the show, my old roommate Esme. So I did get to do a couple of the scenes alongside her. So that was all right. That was kind of how I ended up in the show this year.
That's really cool. That's really good. And so that only runs till the 12th.
Yeah, we've.
Sorry, that's more for myself to remember.
Yeah,
so I'll go see it. So that's good to know.
Yeah, so we've done at the time of recording, we've done 3. Our 4th one is today, and we've got 4 left. 4 left after today's performance. Yeah. It's sold out the past 2 nights as well, and it's been a sellout. The USOG show has been a sellout 3 years in a row, so we're hoping to make it like 4 years in a row a sellout. So if you did want to come, which I would very much appreciate, you should book your tickets quickly.
What's the last night?
12th.
Which is the
12th Saturday.
Oh, so this will come out on Friday, so you can see on Friday.
Yeah. I mean, like I think Saturday is already getting pretty full. So the second you're listening to this recording, log on to the Fringe website and book your tickets.
How does it compare then? Because this is your second year doing a musical at the Fringe.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you came into this knowing how to hit the ground running and how to survive?
Yeah, slightly more. I mean, this is my 5th time at the Fringe, 5th or 6th time at the Fringe in a row. Not performing obviously in all of those, but doing some variation of like going to see shows or working it. Or I produced a show a couple of years ago with a theatre company that me and my friend started up, but I know the kind of rhythms of Fringe now, and I think I'd performed in the venue already, which made the first night a lot easier because in Fringe you don't really get to run anything in the venue before you start doing it. Yeah, so we had a 3-hour tech run, which was basically the techies preparing everything beforehand, going in, plugging in a memory stick, and then focusing lights on the stage, and it was basically us going and standing in places for them so they could focus the lights. We didn't actually run it in the venue. So the first night, which is billed as a preview as it should be, is basically a dress run, but in front of about 100 people. So no pressure. And we have 2 main bits of set in the show: a couch and a chair on wheels that we move around to kind of create the different apartments. And genuinely, the second we pushed the couch onto stage in the opening number, one of the chair legs broke. So it was literally the first half of the show on the first night. We were having to like improvise all of the choreography around the couch because people are like jumping onto the couch and over in a couch and standing on the couch while the couch spins. Like, it's such a fundamental part of all of the numbers, and we were just having to do some like crazy stuff to get around like sitting on a couch, you know what I mean? Yeah,
because the Fringe, for anyone who's never been to the Fringe is over 3,000 shows. It's at 3,700 shows this year.
Oh God.
Something mad in Edinburgh over like 28 days or 20 less than
that.
Over 3,000 shows, over 50,000 performances. So many of these.
And that's just one of the festivals as well. There's like 5 festivals happening at the same time.
That's true. It's mad. So when you see a Fringe show, often a play you'd see that might be 2 hours of an interval is actually pushed down to 50 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're doing a play like that, you don't have time to stand at the side and discuss how to fix a problem. You just have to do it on stage.
Yeah, I mean that's actually that's one of the reasons why Fringe is such a good boot camp, though. For if you and such a great place for up and coming performers and artists, because you really will encounter all of the problems you would encounter in performing, whether you're doing stand up like Marjolein or whether you're doing performances. You need to be. It teaches you to think on your feet, and it teaches you the hard graft of selling your show to people. It is a boot camp, really.
I did a stupid mistake yesterday. Well, the listeners don't know this. I did a 5-minute guest slot at another stand-up show to say some jokes and promote my show, and timing is so hard, so hard. So on my phone, I set a 4-minute timer on my phone that would buzz at 4 minutes. So after it buzzed, I would just wrap up whatever joke I was telling, even because you can stop a bit early, you can't go over. And I set the timer, put my phone, got through all my material, finished the big punchline, and the buzzer still hadn't gone. So I started panicking. So I started saying, "So that's me. Yeah, come to my show. It's funnier than," and then I said, "It's funnier than this," and I hated myself. And then eventually I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna finish now," and just stopped and gave the mic back. And the guy kind of looked at me funny, and I went off, and I'd gone over by like 2-3 minutes, just me rambling. So that was horrible.
I also think one of the things about Fringe, though, is you have to learn to laugh at yourself. You have to it teaches you to be self-deprecating, because there's no other way. I think if you go in with an ego, that ego would get punctured quite quickly.
Especially by drunk Scottish punters.
Yeah. Who actually sometimes have better comebacks than you could think of. I've heard some amazing heckles.
I hate that question, if you've ever been heckled, but I'm going to ask you, just because your show is completely different, do you get like a different level of audience then? That sounds like a really weird way to say it, but because comedy often attracts drunk people looking just to laugh and get body, but you do musicals, so
it's there's a very weird relation. I find this is very subjective. I find when you're doing a show of any kind, really, I find the connection with the audience is very fundamental to the experience that everyone has, whether watching it or performing it. So last night was amazing because they were giving us a lot of energy, so we were giving more energetic performances. It was much pacier, there was lots of laughs, and when there's that kind of like convivial atmosphere going on, there's an infectious sense of fun that happens. But sometimes if it's like rainy outside, or it's the kind of thing that people need to be a little bit tipsy for, it can be like performing to a stone wall, and it's really hard to keep going in that. It's really hard to play against that, because you feel like you're getting nothing from them, and so then you kind of are trying different ways to make them connect to what you're doing, and sometimes that takes your performance in really weird directions.
That's really interesting, because I would have never thought about that with a set scripted piece.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I see that with comedians, but
also you do respond in the same way that comedians respond to jokes that bomb. We respond to line deliveries and ways of staging that don't work. So there's a bit in our scene that we always struggle a bit with, because it's they're basically weirdos as a couple, and so that has its own challenges in terms of how to play it. But there's this bit where I'm trying to tease her about. She's on a diet, and I'm trying to tease her about all the food that she could be eating, and basically it's like we started playing it quite like I'm very like teasing, but it sometimes comes across as a bit vindictive and not actually that funny to laugh at. Whereas you've got to like laugh at her like wishing, like longing for all this food that she could eat. This is a very weird example, but like the first couple times we did it, the way that we played it was just we weren't getting a response, so like people weren't really getting it. So you do have to respond, and we managed to kind of sort it last night. But you do have to respond to what is and isn't working based on the audience reaction, And
that's when Fringe again is so good for that, because you just do so many shows in one go. You can change it over the month. Yeah,
I mean, oh god, I think any show, even if it's scripted, pretty much any show on the first day is going to be significantly different to how it is on the last day.
Yeah.
And better at the end of the run. Yeah.
So you have been doing theatre for much longer than you've been in Edinburgh. So
Yeah.
to go back, I've been working back chronologically here. It was last year. And when did you move to Edinburgh?
I moved to Edinburgh in 2013.
Cool.
And when I was 18. And then I did a kind of foundation year in filmmaking after spending time doing all the Madrim stuff. And then after that foundation year, I started a degree in English literature at Edinburgh University. But in terms of theatre stuff, it goes all the way back to like Shetland Youth Theatre, starting when I was 12. I remember the first show I did with Shetland Youth Theatre was we did A Midsummer Night's Dream in Walls Community Garden.
Oh man, I think that's the year the first year I hadn't done a show with them.
Yeah.
I watched it and I missed it so much.
Which I still think about a lot. I think it was amazing. It was like a promenade performance in Walls Community Garden.
Yeah.
And I was a fairy, and I just remember having to hide in a bush for 10 minutes so I could roll out and kind of writhe around the actress who was playing Titania, who was sitting on this kind of hammock thing. And it was midsummer in Shetlands, so you can imagine how many midges were floating about. And I just remember literally we were all kind of like writhing behind her, but we were like smacking the midges off her bare back at the same time, and she would turn around occasionally and just be like, "Thank you." Haswellian Theatre, yeah.
That's brilliant. So is that the first kind of big play you did was with Shetland Youth Theatre?
Yeah. I mean, I'd done some stuff with Izzy Swanson in primary school and stuff, but when I was 12 I did The Midsummer Night's Dream. And then we did Red Sky, the National Theatre Connections show a year later, which obviously went to the National Theatre in London.
Yes.
Which was an amazing experience. Is that the first time
Connections actually went to London from Shetland?
Yeah,
wow.
I think so. Because we'd done, I mean, it was my first Connections, but we'd done the trip to Edinburgh. And after we'd done that trip to Edinburgh, I think they decided that we were the one that was going to go to London.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So that was an amazing experience, really, and that was very formative for me in quite a few ways, because it made the kind of like art stuff like in my head, it made like a viable option for something that I could do as a career, and something that I thought that I would enjoy doing.
Really interesting, because often in Shetland you think art is great for if you're doing it, especially when you're going to stay in Shetland. Not saying whether you're going to go back to Shetland, live there, but often when you're in Shetland you think great hobby won't make me money.
Yeah, and I mean I think there's kind of been an explosion in the cultural scene of Shetlands in the past few years, and particularly a load of really great grassroots stuff. Like, I mean, obviously I think the building of Mariel is at the centre of it for me, because it kind of created a hub for all of these kind of artistic minds to come together in like an actual place, and resources and infrastructure for people to do whatever they need to do. So I think that's been fundamental to it. But things like Madrim starting, I think it was 2007.
I was going to ask you about Madrim. So anyone who doesn't know, Madrim is a young person's film group where it's peer-led teaching of filming. In fact, it was Joe who first ever taught me to use a camera.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, the nice cameras.
Really?
Yeah, my first ever Madrim lesson, you showed me the buttons.
Okay.
So Madrim's great. Madrim's a way of like young people just getting together and just scripting, writing, shooting, editing short films. And that was
and it was great about it, because I feel like when you're kind of like that, or when I was that age, like early teens, mid-teens, I had so few inhibitions. Like, and I creatively, like, we would just have this barmy idea and then just script it and that day and then go and film it, which obviously if you're wanting to make stuff with very high production values is not the way to do it, but when you're just wanting to kind of have a bit of like a fun creative time, explore ridiculous ideas and just make stuff for the sheer pleasure of it, then it was great. I feel like if I was to make something now, I would overanalyze it and think a lot about it, but there was something really fun about just having an idea and just going with it and making it and kind of doing things on the fly.
Like, they're on the moon. No problems there. They're on the moon.
Well, when we did the 24-hour film for Screenplay a few years ago, we did it in 24 hours. It was called Small Steps, and it was basically about these two kids who came from quite horrible backgrounds, and they were both building little rockets, and they were going to have a race to the moon. But then there was this kind of like, I don't know, alternate reality thing going on where it was like 2 astronauts actually going to the moon, or it was basically what was happening in their imagination. Yeah, what was happening in their imagination.
That was the challenge that was a screenplay challenge where Marjolein was given a prop, a line, a location, and a character, and you had to put that into a film in 24 hours.
Yeah. And so, but in the end, I played an astronaut. Yeah. I hope I did it justice. Yeah. And the end shot is just me and my friend Katya, just holding our hands in front of a green screen, but it looks like decently like we're on the moon.
I know, it's actually quite a good effect.
Yeah.
I think it filmed in front of a green wall.
Curtain. It was a curtain.
Okay.
Curtain in Lorcan's house, yeah.
That's cool.
But it the point being that like what was great about it is that it taught me that if you just have an idea and you have enough willpower and resourcefulness, you can kind of make it happen. I think that's one of the great things about Shetland as well. It's like as a place, you know, it's you've got all this amazing scenery, you've got all these kind of weird idiosyncratic locations that you couldn't see in any other type of film, but like are amazing places to shoot stuff and amazing places for inspiration, you know. I don't know if you agree.
Totally, 100%. I think we've got this wealth of exit locations, and also just, I don't know, like you said, Shetlanders are really, really keen and help out the communities.
Yes,
really
that's true as well.
I mean, Madram's filmed in banks. The
hairdressers
butcher let us meet in the butchers.
They gave us flowers. I remember Stems gave us flowers once. Like people are very into it and on board with, and up for stuff, which I don't think you would get in many other places. You're
saying, actually, you mentioned briefly, we haven't spoken about this, because I was just going to explore a bit more about you and the Fringe, because you said with Madram you get an idea and you just make it happen.
Yeah.
Do you think that spirit was there when you did your first Fringe show? Because you produced, was it 2 years ago?
Okay, it was 2014. Yeah. Okay. So that was a slightly different thing. There's a play called Yellow Moon, written by David Gregg, who is now the artistic director of the Lyceum Theatre in Edinburgh.
Okay.
And it's this really beautiful story about these kind of like 2 teenage outcasts. One of them is a Scottish Muslim, and the other one is a kind of, for want of a better term, kind of a Neddy character, but basically has had this really like troubled upbringing, and basically there's an incident where he ends up stabbing his stepdad, and they both end up going on the run to the Highlands to try and find his real dad.
Whoa.
It's an amazing play, and you should seek it out if you can. But I helped out my friend Julia because it was really her baby, and we did it at Bedlam Theatre, which is one of the university theatres, during the year, and it got a really good reception. And we were thinking, and it's the kind of show that it was 4 chairs and 3 screens and like a costume rail, which is the right kind of scale to transfer that to Fringe. You know, nothing too elaborate, and a lot of it was done through lighting and through the performance itself to evoke all these different places on the big journey towards the Highlands. So it was very well received when we did it. So we started a production company, and with the kind of aim that we would try and promote and produce more grassroots Scottish projects on the Fringe, or promote Scottish writers or Scottish writing, because we felt like it was slightly underserved at the festival. And obviously it's a big international thing, which is amazing, but outside of the kind of bigger institutions in Edinburgh, we felt like there should be something that would give more of a spotlight and more of a platform to local homegrown work. So yeah, I produced for that, and that was a massive learning experience, because that was me just learning how Fringe works, you know. Which was intense and very difficult, but it gave a nice foundation for all of this stuff that I've done with the festival in the preceding years.
Would you have any recommendations for anyone? Because the Fringe is amazing, because it's anything from theatre, comedy. There's also, like you said, there's other festivals too. There's the book festival, there's storytelling, music. Do you have any advice for people who'd be looking into setting something up at the Fringe in 2 years? Because that book you gave me is really handy.
Yes, I bought when Marjolein was doing her first stand-up set last year. I bought her a book that, because I a couple of years ago I had got like 2/3 of a Secret Santa present for her and never got the last third, and then kind of never ended up giving her the present, and then the guilt stayed with me for like a year and a half afterwards. So I thought the way to like repent was to buy her this book that I found really helpful.
Such a good book.
When I was trying to do Fringe, it got loads of helpful advice. It's Mark Fisher, I think, who wrote it.
A survival guide to the
Fringe Survival Guide or something.
Yeah.
It's very good. I would say if you want to do it, speak to people who've done it before, because they are very helpful. Yeah. I would say actually before you try and do anything at the Fringe, come to it one year just so you understand what the vibe is like. It so much depends on what you want to do, whether you want to do theatre or whether you want to do music or comedy, sketch, stand up. I'd say seek out people who've done it before, and also the Fringe itself as an organisation. They're there to help artists develop, and they will be able to talk you through things. So getting in touch with them is a really good
they're amazing. Like you can phone them up any time and lead up and during Fringe. You can phone them up and someone will just talk to you on the phone and answer all their questions.
Yep, absolutely.
If they can't, they get you someone to phone you back like really quickly.
Yep, they're great.
They're brilliant.
But Marjolein, enough about me. Tell us about your show. How's it going? You've done a couple, right?
Yeah, I did a couple.
Performances.
And when we recorded this, then I done literally a couple.
Yeah.
And it's going good. Good support from the Shetland crowd. Tracy baked me a cheesecake. Gave me a
good old Trace.
It's absolutely lovely.
Reliable Tracy.
No, it's really good. It's really good to go into this a second year. I think from doing those BBC social videos, then there's a lot more. It's like free advertisement basically.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
Yeah. Have they helped inspire you doing the social videos? Because surely you'd need to. It's a very observational, and that's plays a lot into the stand up that you'd be writing. Surely. I
say I'm an observational comedian, but sometimes I don't know exactly what that means.
Yeah, I think it's. I actually find it a weirdly off-putting term because I just associate it with like, oh, my wife, you know.
See airplane food. I don't actually say anything like that. I was mostly storytelling, and there's lots of tiny little stories about relationships that build up into nothing. I have no answer about relationships to anyone. In fact, I need to work on the show. But I say this halfway through the show, I'm like, I don't know why you guys thought I'd have anything funny about relationships, because look at me. I'm a single 28-year-old who lives with her mum and dad and with my sister and their husband and babies. So I need to put that in the show. That'd be good to say it near the end, actually.
Yeah, have that one for hilarious. Free. Yeah.
Thank you. But no, I'm pleased with how it's going, and I'm excited to see how the show goes. But for me, this is my first full run, so much of it is just pacing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's notorious that I think is it Black Friday? Is it Black Friday or Black Wednesday?
Is it Black Wednesday?
Black Wednesday. It's a Wednesday in the middle of Fringe where everyone is exhausted and the public have run out of money, and it's normally raining. It's inevitably raining, and that's when the notoriously the morale is at the lowest, and then it kind of picks up again. Yeah,
so last year I only did 11 days. I think my last day was actually the Monday or actually the Tuesday before that. So I stopped just before that lull. And it's fun though, because if you go out on that night, you don't have queues for the bars because it's such a quiet night. Yeah. Actually, I would recommend people to see shows on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays.
Mondays and Tuesdays is 2 for 1.
Oh yeah,
as well.
Less of a push to try and get into things, and they really appreciate you being in the crowd. I will.
Please come.
Yeah. But no, it's going good. It's quite early on in the day of the month.
I think you just need to. My advice for long runs would be just to sleep. You need to sleep.
I
sometimes.
Do need to sleep more.
And eat some vegetables. Eat some. Not even vegetables. Eat some home cooked food. Don't just buy out of vans the whole time, because that will wear you down gradually. You need a good, sturdy home cooked meal.
I'm making a chili tomorrow morning.
Hey!
And thank you very much, Joe.
No problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you for talking to me, letting me plug my show.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great, and I just think it's really interesting talking to you because you've done theatre, filmmaking, singing in Shetland, and I always find it really exciting to see what folk who've started with something in Shetland and actually continue with it further afield. And you're doing really exciting things. We didn't even talk about the fact you were in a musical in Canada. Just going to throw this in here.
Heather's the musical. They made a musical version of the 1980s. 1980? I think it was 1980. With cult film with Winona Ryder and Christian Slater.
And you play Christian Slater's character.
I played the Christian Slater character.
But thank you so much for talking to us during the Fringe, because you're also working at the book festival, but that'd be a whole other episode of the podcast. But you're very, very busy, so thank you so much for taking
Oh,
time
no problem.
to
It was my
us.
pleasure.
And again, to the Shetland Times listeners, if you have any ideas for stories, people you want to hear from, do please email the Shetland Times. There'll be a link to the email address on this page, because we're 3 days into the Fringe and my brain has turned to mush. I can't remember the email address anymore. But thank you very much for listening, and thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Marjolein.